Welcome to part 3 of how to financially prepare to buy a home. Today, we're going to get into a whole list of tips for you. Let's go.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
What's happening? How to Buy a Home? He's David Sidoni here to offer guidance, coaching, and practical tips for your financial planning for buying a home. We're going to jump right in. Step 4. This is a big one. It's checking your credit score. I can't emphasize this one enough. It's a biggie, and it's a biggie to do quickly. I don't care if you are a 400 or a 835 credit score. When you're buying a home, there's a lot you need to understand about how your credit score works. And if you're buying with a partner, real important you understand all this stuff way early as well. It can affect your buying power, the fees that you pay. We're talking like tens of thousands of dollars of money that could be affected just by that one stupid 3-digit score. So yet again, I'm going to give you the example. If my sister in Missouri called me and told me she wanted to buy a home in a year and she asked me for advice on how to do it, she'd probably be expecting me to tell her all that I know about picking a realtor and a lender and shopping for homes and looking at inspections. But the thing that I would tell her to do is first, I would tell her to listen to the ultimate 10 steps that I've been spending my entire life creating. I mean, come on, it's just the #1 trusted first-time homebuyer step-by-step system and instructions. And, I don't know the entire country. Really glad you're keeping up with me. So I tell her it's episode 400. Then I would tell her to do this today. Today in this order. Number 1, start saving automated now. Saving up for a down payment and also saving for an emergency reserve fund. And then number 2, I would tell her to go check out an app, something that you can use to help you with your budgeting, or just ask Dad. He'll sit you down. It'll probably take him, 17, 18 hours to show you how to use the spreadsheet because God, he loves that. And then I would tell her number 3, do everything listed in step 3 of the 10 steps about your credit score. That's from episode 403. Do everything. And of course, she'd probably be mad at me because she'd want to be talking about the fun stuff, looking at houses and what should she look for, what kind of home should she buy. But when it comes to financially preparing to buy your first home, this tip on your credit score, that's the one that you should start no matter how far away you are from being ready to get serious about buying a home. In fact, if you're here right now with me in your ear holes or your eyeballs, if you're watching on YouTube, right now, you're ready to work on your credit score because fixing credit scores takes one thing and one thing only: time. The more time that you are working on it, the better. And that goes for everybody from the 400s to the 835s. Over the years here at How to Buy a Home, I've interviewed and I've chatted with and I've had meetings with several different credit specialists. And they all told me that all credit reports, they have some mistakes on them. And most people have no idea that they're there. And correcting these mistakes takes, you guessed it, time. The credit bureaus, seriously, they're a pain in the butt. So they all take time to do anything, especially corrections. But not to mention, either way, if you are looking to just build it up, if you're one of the lucky ones that doesn't have anything on there, time. It's the best way to build it. And the only way to get time is to start right now. So find some time to learn from all the tips in episode 403. You're not just going to be looking at your credit score. You're going to be looking at your credit report, and you're going to be doing a full credit score checkup. And just like saving to buy a home, the sooner you start this process, well, then the higher your score is going to be, and the more you're going to save when you buy a home. So that's the final step in those first 4 steps. Today, we're in part 3 of this series that's going to offer you an abundance of tips and tools to help you financially set yourself up for home ownership whenever it is right for you. So I gave you 4 steps. It really can actually be put into 3 because the first one is saving for the down payment as well as saving for your emergency fund. Now, you notice I called those first 3 or 4 things steps. The remainder of this series is going to be a bunch of tips. But those 3, 4 first things, they are steps and you need to do them. This is not researching and education. It's action for you that will benefit you, whether you ever buy a home or not, and especially when you do buy a home. You need to do them before you waste another second doing any researching. And especially if you're looking on Zillow. If you haven't done those 3 steps yet, get off Zillow. I cannot emphasize this enough. And the reason I'm so animated about this is because you're more ready than you think. I've seen it a million times. And no matter where you are in the process, taking these action steps early, it's a to-do, not an education and research of something you're going to do later. Time is one thing you can never get back. No matter how much research you do, time, it's your superpower as a first-time home buyer. It's time that helps you get set up so you have more options down the line. That's why no matter where you are in this planning process, these first 3 are steps, as in move, do them, take action. Number 1, automating your savings in your reserve emergency fund. Number 2, writing down a budget or using a budgeting app so you can track your progress. And number 3, checking your credit score and your full credit report ASAP, because upgrading your credit and fixing that takes time. You need that to see necessary improvements that are going to help you get a better deal. So do not spend another minute, not another second, on education or research. All of these steps get better with time, and you're losing points, dollars, and potential options by listening to me right now. Do not think that you are too far out for these steps. I do this 24/7, and I know that most of you are much closer than you think. There is always more to learn, and you will never learn it all before you do it. The use of time in your financial planning is the most underrated and least talked about strategy in the entire world of first-time home buying. And if you want to know why, well, I'll tell you, it's because even though time is the game changer that serves you, the client, the consumer, the customer better, coaching these time action steps, it has one fatal flaw. It doesn't make anybody any money if they coach you on these things. And in case you didn't notice, I'm not one of those dudes. I don't care. This podcast is free, and it's also sponsor free. So you're getting totally unbiased, deep, insider cut information to help you succeed where I've seen so many other people struggle, and I want to correct that. I want to change the rigged game so that you can do this with the best advantages for you. So get after it, go for it, take action. And then once you have, so go for it, take action. Know that even if you're years away from buying a home, you can take action today. And then once you have, you can come right back here, and then you're going to get, I think I'm lining up 20 of the best tips for your financial planning so you can dump your rent forever. If you haven't done those steps, go ahead and do it right now. I'll wait for you. Go ahead, pause it. Great, thanks for pausing. I'm still here. I live inside your phone. How scary and cringy is that? All right, tip number 1, check your interest rates. This is one I'm really surprised people don't do more often, because interest rates, obviously, they're differing all over the place for credit cards, savings accounts, car loans, student loans, etc. One of the things I tell people all the time is go through every single account you've got and check the interest rate, because you know what? You can call them and you can ask to do better. For instance, if you've got a credit card and you've been making prompt credit card payments, call up the credit card company and tell them you want a lower rate. We've interviewed several different people who did this, and they got a lower interest rate. And sometimes they even got higher credit limits, which is a great way to help boost your credit score. All you need to do is pick up the phone and call. And no, I love you, my homies, but you cannot do this online. And I know that many of the Gen Z folks out there don't like to talk on the phone. I have a son in college. I've seen this firsthand. I've even read articles that colleges are now offering courses on how to converse on the phone with customer service. So if that's you, get after it. Do whatever it takes and make the call. If you need to have a cocktail, shotgun a beer, maybe you want to make a video of yourself doing the call, because you know what? If you really suck at it and it goes awful, you can post it, and all the parents like me, they will watch it over and over again, and you'll go viral. It might not be how you wanted to go viral, but you will. But do this because it's easy. It's not as difficult as you think. And lower payments to your credit cards mean less time with your crappy landlord. So pick up that thing that you use for the internet and use it to make a phone call. Now, we're talking about interest rates on your auto loans. That's a whole different ball of wax. Because most of the time when you're looking to get a lower rate on your car loan, you're actually refinancing the remainder of your loan. Now, that's where it gets tricky, because there is no one-size-fits-all hack or trick that works for everybody in their car loan. Your car payment situation is totally unique to you, and refinancing into it, you actually really want to look at what home loan you're going to be considering before you do anything. So wait a minute. Did I just say that if you're 8 months from buying a house and you're thinking about refinancing your car, you should actually call a real estate professional first before you do that refinance, because it could affect what kind of loan you get? You might not get your dream home. Yes, I am saying that. Yes, I have seen it. Yes, it makes me sad. Here's the best tip I can give you. Before you do anything big financially, before you make an extra payment or you try to pay off an entire credit card, put all that money into savings. When you're getting a home loan, the banks don't look at your overall debt. They look at your monthly obligations, and they compare that to how much of a monthly loan payment you can afford. When you've got big extra cash, don't pay stuff off because you might need that cash later. When you're going to rearrange, refinance, change some of your loans, don't do that until you talk to your lender professional first, because they can tell you what's going to look the most advantageous to the bank as opposed to what just looks good on paper in a typical restructuring of a loan. When you're buying a home, cash is king. So if you suddenly come into $5,000, a lot of people think, cool, I'm going to pay off my car. I'm going to pay off my credit card. Make sure you check with your team because that might be the wrong move for you. Of course, paying something off is never the wrong move financially, but it might be the wrong move for the type of home loan that you want to qualify for the amount that you're looking to get. Because potentially you could get a home loan with a car loan or a credit card loan, that balance sitting on your sheet. But if you take that $5,000 and you pay something off immediately, you don't have the options. Whereas if you stick it in your savings account, you can call your professional and find out the best move for you to make. And on the flip side with car loans, the same kind of thinking that definitely applies to if you're thinking about buying a dope-ass new ride. Let's say you're a year out and you pick up a new car for a $900 a month payment. And then 6 months before you're ready to buy, you call someone and they go, oh, just so you know, that $900 car payment you picked up 6 months ago, that is worth $125,000 in your home loan. So instead of being approved for $500,000, you're only approved for $375,000 right now. That's the mindset shift. So this tip is about calling and seeing what you can do to adjust your interest rates. But the side note to this tip, that's a bigger thing. Once you've seen the math or a rent replacement strategy, and you understand that buying a home is your goal because you see how it's the fastest way for you and your money to gain wealth and stability, when you're getting ready to do that, any and all big financial decisions, when you're saving up, buying a home, that's going to be the thing that dictates every single one of those decisions. So ask your professional first before you make any financial moves. And I mean every single one. Don't get a car, don't buy furniture, don't go on vacation, don't get new credit cards, don't refinance your student loans, don't make any financial decisions while you're saving up to buy a home without talking to a unicorn lender. I've seen this happen so many times. People do what they think is a normal financial decision, and it delays their ability to buy a home by sometimes 6 months to a year. All right, side note over. Let's go to tip number 2. Now, tip number 2 is a direct result of the side note that I just talked about. What happens when you get big chunks of cash? Well, the main thing you want to do is you want to use it to your advantage. Buying a home, it's different than anything else you've ever done. And you can't use generic budgeting and financial advice when you're making big decisions with big cash. You know, if you happen to get big birthday money or bonus money at work or tax refund or money for Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or any other holiday. The biggest payday of all, though, where I see people take their cash and just pay off all their debt because they're like, woohoo, we're going to get started in life. It's weddings and babies. Now, the babies one is different because that's the people who take all the stuff they get in the shower and return it for cash. You folks, I want to hang out with you. You got something going on. But the deal is regularly depositing a few $1,000s per year from your cash chunks into a savings account and then talking to your team and figuring out what the best way is to use it, that can cut a couple of years off of your time frame for buying. It's incredible. And I know for some of you, it feels just logical, rational, and normal to pay down your debt when you get a big tax refund. But your best home loan approval might come from dividing that money into multiple different areas, some reducing debt and some building up savings. So check with that team. And finally, when it comes to big chunks, this is a weird one. When you're getting a mortgage, they actually look at money given to you, whether it's to buy a home or just a random big chunk of money that was given to you 3 months, 4 months, 5 months before you buy a home. They classify that in what they call a gift. And a gift has a very specific paper trail that has to happen, or it could affect your home loan approval. I know it sounds totally bonkers, but if you're getting money from anybody, especially if it's money that's going to help you to buy a home, check with your home lender. Now, look, don't go crazy. If you get a $25 check from grandma, go ahead and cash that. But if it's a $1,500 or $2,500 or $5,000 gift, it has to be sourced. The lender has to see where it comes from. And sometimes the giver of said gift money, they even have to write a letter to the lender to prove to the bank that it's your nana giving your money and that you're not a terrorist. I wish I was making that last part up, but that's the reason the rule's in place. Tip number 3, house hacking. Boy, I love this one. Now, this is kind of a bigger picture tip, but I'm mixing it in early because I want to get your mind working and living outside the box a little bit. There are several different ways that you can house hack so that you can make being a homeowner more affordable. And one of my favorites actually came to us from an interview I did with one of our unicorn realtors, Chris. The episode number is 315, and we will put that in the show notes. Now, when Chris was in college, he and his buddies did what a lot of freshmen do when they go to a big college. They rented a house. And one day, after I think it was maybe between his freshman and sophomore year, the landlord called him and said, hey, just so you know, we're going to be selling the house. So Chris is on the phone and he's like, okay, well, can I buy it? And the guy said, sure, let's figure that out. So Chris called his dad, who loved the idea, and his dad worked as a co-signer with him. And at 19 years old, he bought that home that he and his roommates were going to live in for the next 3 years. And the classic part of this story is Chris was the guy that collected all the rent checks from everybody. He bought the house, just collected their rent checks as usual on the first of the month. But the really cool thing about that house hacking story happened in the 1990s. And since then, he has kept that home and he used that one single home to buy several different other homes in his lifetime. And even in the last few years, pulled money out of it and he used it to fund an entire business for his wife. So open your mind outside the box. Let's look at the world of possibilities. House hacking is a perfect concept. If you're one of the people, when you're in a situation with roommates, you're the guy who collects all the rent. You're the guy who finds the apartment. You're the guy who divides up all the utilities. If that's you, here's a formula for you. Number 1, realize that with roommates kicking in on your payment, buying a home is much more affordable monthly. Number 2, realize that cost to get the home is a lot less than you think. I've been coaching for 20 years. Facts. And number 3, realize that when you're young, it's the perfect time to house hack. This is the time in your life when roommates are chill. It's normal. You're expecting that that's going to be happening with you right now. You'll never have a more flexible time in your life. And what you can do is get in for a small investment, take their money so the monthly doesn't completely break the bank for you, and you can capitalize that and set yourself up for such a bigger life later on. And I know couples who have done this too. I know young buyers who discovered that on their own, they could only afford a 2-bedroom place. But with some coaching, they figured out that with a roommate, they could afford the monthly payment on a 3-bedroom place. So they bought a home or a condo or a townhome, and they ended up buying it 5 to 7 years sooner than they thought they ever would have. But since they had that roommate in that third room, their monthly mortgage was now something they could afford. And it was now fixed. It's not going to rise each year like their rent had. So for a lot of them, that meant in 2, 3, or 4 years, they could handle the rent on their own. So they got the roommate out and now, boom, they just went from a 2-bedroom house to a 3-bedroom house, an entire new larger home without having to move. The only reason people don't take advantage of this type of house hack is because they haven't had all the options explained to them. And there are tons of other house hacks. You can rent a room. You can also rent a garage or a basement. When you're looking to figure out how to qualify for a home, your parents or somebody else can co-sign on the loan to help you get approved for the loan amount that you need if your income alone doesn't do it. And then you could get the roommate in because now you're going to be able to afford the monthly payment. But even though originally you wouldn't be able to afford the payment on that house on your own. Another hack is using an ADU on a property. I've talked about these in some of these other podcasts. I'll have JT put it in the notes for you, but it's finding a home with an existing rental space, an accessory dwelling unit, and that way you can use the entire lot of the property to make the home more affordable. Another hack a lot of people ask me about is buying a duplex or a triplex or a 4-unit place. Here's the way that works. Can you do that? Yes, you can. If you're buying a single home or a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex, they all fall under the same loan programs. You can buy any of those just like you would be buying a regular first-time home buyer home. You can get it with all the benefits and the loan programs for a regular, normal first-time home buyer buying a place that isn't a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex. They all work the same. In episode 358, I actually interviewed some homies. I was 22, and I believe he was 23, maybe 24. And the 22-year-old had never rented before in her life. And their purchase of their very first property they ever owned, it was a duplex, and it only cost them $22,000 total at their closing. Down payment and closing costs, only $22,000. That happened for real. Now, of course, you don't have to do any of these house hacking things. You can buy a home in the traditional fashion. But when you're getting ready to purchase your home, I tell people all the time, open your mind up a little bit. You might discover that you can leverage your first purchase into some much bigger things later on. You might discover that affordability is actually here today, or you might discover that the affordability that you thought was 5 years away, it's actually happening right now for you. And you can get 5 extra years in the time that you own a home, which is a gigantic financial gain. So if you haven't looked into this because you're stuck in the mindset of, I'm just going to keep saving until I have tens of thousands of dollars and then I'm going to call somebody, you are going to be missing out on a lot of killer opportunities. And even if you never do a house hack, it's a great way to get your mind thinking about making things affordable much sooner than you thought ever possible. Okay, tip number 4. Buying a home is fully dependent on your income minus your debts. So if your income isn't enough, change jobs for a higher salary. Wow, that was harsh, right? People, I'm telling you this because I don't make the rules. Prices and interest rates, yeah, they're going to affect and change how much home you can afford. But there is a standard formula. And the reality of that formula is it's based on your monthly income minus your debts. So your income is the top variable on that spreadsheet. When you go through the 10 steps starting at episode 400, you're going to discover how to hire a first-time homebuyer specialized team, and they're going to be able to tell you exactly how much you can afford based on your current salary. So what happens if you discover that it's not enough? And even if you got rid of all your debts, you still wouldn't be in a good position. Well, then the earlier that you know that, the better it is, because that gives you more time to look into different salaries, different jobs, finding things with more income growth potential. So that falls under, once again, our giant theme from preparing to buy a home, time. You and your team get your numbers today, because I can tell you, if you think you're 5 years out or 5 months out, when you've got the right team, 5 years becomes 2 years and 5 months becomes 1. So if you need to do a job change at some point, the more prep time you have, then the less time you're going to spend renting. Now, of course, there's other ways you can do this. I'll talk about side hustles in just a little bit. But the sooner that you know exactly what your income can buy with the formula that all the lenders use, the sooner you can start making big life decisions now and let time do its thing and work its magic. We all know that there's a wage gap crisis out there. It's real. So right now, it takes more planning than normal to live the normal American dream. And of course, that's why you're here. That's why you're listening. Rents are always going to go up ridiculously. It's been happening since the 1980s. So knowing what your job affords you today, that's a great way to determine if you're getting a smaller home now so you can just get in the game on what you can afford in this job, or if you need to open up your mind today and start looking for other options, buying a bigger home later on, but understanding the salary it's going to take to do that. The cool thing is, by doing this early, you're going to have way more options later in life. I mean, the earlier that you purchase this place, the more options you're going to have later. And that's coming from me, the guy who didn't do this and rented a decade longer than I needed to. So when I was in my 30s looking at career changes, which I did, they had some major factors in them because I didn't have 10 years of a built-up property that was giving me a bunch of different options. So truly, by starting this as soon as you can, using the salary that you've got right now, you can then change careers and make less money later with less stress because you have the beautiful stability of that home. Okay, tip number 5, side hustles. I know tons of people out there that pick up side hustles for other financial goals. Vacations or a trip to a music festival, Vegas trip, a new car. So why don't people do those for a home? You can do Ubers or Lyft, delivery services, dog walking, nanny or babysitting services. You can teach music or dance or swimming lessons. You can even do a little Etsy thing and have an e-commerce mini business with whatever it is that you craft and do. There's all kinds of choices. In fact, where I live, I know a ton of people who work what they call seasonal at Disneyland. They work during some of the big holidays and on the weekend. There are lots of different seasonal positions in most areas. That just happens to be our goofy little one with a giant rat here in Orange County. I can't believe I just said that. I love Disneyland. Why would I call Mickey Mouse a rat? Moving on, many first-time home buyers that I have coached said that when they picked up a side gig, one that they actually enjoyed, they realized they doubled up on their savings plan. Because not only did they make money doing that side gig, but they also didn't spend money because they were working on the time when they were usually out spending money. Tip number 7, sell your shit. Most of us have too much shit. Just get rid of it. What did that minimalist guru with the book say a few years ago? Does it bring you joy? Getting rid of your stuff, it really can be freeing. And it opens your mind to start envisioning a bigger space for yourself that you can fill with more shit. Dude, I was going to say stuff that time. And if you were ever a collector, check out the market for your collectibles. Who knows? Maybe it's a good time to sell some of that stuff. The internet can be a gold mine, so see what you can sell. Okay, tip number 8. I happen to live in Southern California, and you have to have a car. So this tip's kind of tough for me because, I got to drive everywhere. I found out when I was researching and doing all this stuff to help first-time home buyers over the years, one of the podcasts I listened to was these guys, Joel and Matt. They've got a great podcast called How to Money. They're in the Atlanta area. They always like to say they're not cheap, they're frugal. They started to bicycle everywhere because they wanted to make a little extra money and spend a little less money on their cars. Now, the cool thing about it is that they discovered that not only was it saving money for them, but they really liked it. So it increased their mental and physical health and their financial portfolio. So if you are in an area like I am where you have to drive everywhere, keep a notebook in your car. Try this tip. Document every single trip in that notebook. And with a little planning, think about it. How many of those trips could you have done with alternate transportation? Maybe you even figure out when you're doing that, if it's you and a partner, oh my gosh, maybe you could be a one-car family. That is a huge savings. All it takes is a little bit of planning. You'd be surprised what's available to you once you do your own self-analysis. Now, if you're one of those people that's really lucky and lives in a place where you don't have to have a car, if you've got public transit, homies, we live in an Uber world. So you can cover most of any of your driving trips with that if you live in a place that has a ton of public transit and you still own a car as well. I'm just saying, just try it. Try public transportation for your regular routine and Uber for the big trips. And who knows, maybe it's going to work for you and you can dump your car altogether. That could be a gigantic financial win. Now, I know you're thinking, dude, I'm going to give up my car just to buy a house. Okay, well, you're listening to this podcast, so assuming you're trying to figure out, I didn't say everybody has to do every one of these tips, but I can tell you this. Your super dope ride that you really love is a depreciating asset, and every single day it loses you money. Meanwhile, you're paying rent to a landlord and not to yourself. A home is an appreciating asset. So check back in 5 years and see what was cooler, having a dope-ass ride today or having 5 years of equity, money saved, and a fixed monthly payment. If you're not down with that, hey, you do you. But for those of you that were maybe a little shocked by what I was saying, think about that. Maybe it's a little wake-up call for yourself. All right, that's our 8 tips for today. I have a dozen left. So make sure that you're following the podcast. Click that follow on wherever you listen to it, because that's going to mean that you're subscribing to it. You get the new updates and the episodes immediately because there's more coming in this series. And please, if you're getting anything out of these totally free podcasts, drop a quick written review in Apple or Spotify. It takes like 90 seconds, and it's a gigantic help to the podcast. It keeps it going, gets the message out there to more renters out there, because I've now been seeing this for over 20 years, and I've been seeing tens of thousands of different first-time home buyers all over the country now, and I know one thing. You can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuy.com to get started.